English Boost podcast from Speak English Journey.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Speak English Journey. I'm Helen, and I'm absolutely buzzing with energy today because we have a topic that is not just relevant, but it's shaping the very fabric of our future. And as always, I have my brilliant co-host, Stephen, here with me to navigate these exciting waters. Stephen, how are you feeling today?
Helen, I'm doing great, and I'm honestly a little bit excited to dive into this. The topic of AI is one of those things that feels like it's changing by the hour. So it's a huge pleasure to be able to talk about it with you and our listeners. I think this conversation is long overdue.
Absolutely. And when we say AI, a lot of people might think of science fiction movies, these super intelligent robots taking over the world. But the reality is that artificial intelligence is already woven into our daily lives in so many subtle and profound ways. So let's start with something we all use. Think about your phone. When you open an app like Netflix or Spotify and it recommends a new movie or a song that you absolutely love, that's AI, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it's a perfect example of a recommendation engine. This is a type of AI that learns from your past behavior, the movies you've watched, the songs you've skipped, and then uses that data to predict what you might like in the future. It's a massive field, and it's why we feel like these services know us so well.
And it's not just entertainment. I was on an online shopping site the other day, and the system was showing me products that were eerily similar to things I had been looking at on a completely different website. It's almost a little spooky, isn't it? But it shows how these AI systems are getting more sophisticated and can now create a more personalized shopping experience.
Yes, it is. And those systems are working with immense amounts of data. They're not just looking at your individual history, they're looking at the behavior of millions of other users who have similar tastes to you. This is a concept called collaborative filtering. It's the AI saying, people who liked X also liked Y, so you will probably like Y too. It's a powerful tool for businesses, but it also raises some questions about privacy, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And that's a whole other conversation we need to have. But let's move on to another incredibly common AI tool, translation apps. I remember the old days of machine translation where it would just give you a bunch of words that didn't make sense together. But now, when I use an app like Google Translate, the sentences are so much more fluid and natural. What's changed there?
That's a great question. The big leap came with neural machine translation. The older systems were often rule-based or statistical. They would try to follow a set of grammar rules or find the most common word-to-word translations. But neural networks, which are the basis of today's AI, work more like a human brain. They look at the entire sentence and its context to understand the meaning and then generate a translation that captures that meaning, rather than just translating word by word. It's a much more holistic approach.
So it's not just about words, it's about concepts and context. That's why it sounds so much more human. And that brings me to the next big one, the personal assistants in our pockets, like Siri or Google Assistant. It feels like they've gone from a simple voice command tool to something that can almost have a conversation with us.
Exactly. And the magic behind that is something called natural language processing, or NLP. This is a massive field of AI research dedicated to understanding and generating human language. When you say, "Hey Siri, what's the weather like today?" the system first has to use automatic speech recognition, ASR, to convert your spoken words into text. Then the NLP part kicks in to understand the intent of your request. It figures out that you're asking for a weather forecast for your current location, and then retrieves the information to give you the answer. It's a complex, multi-step process that all happens in milliseconds.
That's incredible. And it's evolving so fast. I was reading the other day that they are getting better at understanding different accents and even emotional tone. So if your voice sounds frustrated, it might be able to pick up on that.
That's a huge area of research right now. Sentiment analysis. AI systems are learning to detect the emotional content in text and speech, which has massive implications for customer service, for example. Instead of just a simple chatbot, you could have an AI that understands you're angry and can prioritize your issue or respond with a more empathetic tone.
So, we've talked about some of the tools we use in our daily lives, but let's broaden the scope and talk about a truly revolutionary aspect of AI, generative AI. This is what's behind the tools that can create new content like text, images, and even music. I've been experimenting with some AI writing assistants myself, and I'm just blown away by what they can do.
Oh, me too. The most prominent example right now is the rise of large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT. The name is a hint to what they are. Large because they've been trained on an absolutely massive data set of text and code from the internet. And language models because their purpose is to predict the next word in a sentence. When you interact with them, they're essentially generating a response one word at a time based on the patterns they've learned from all that data.
It's mind-boggling. I've used them to help brainstorm ideas for this podcast, to write emails, and even to help me rephrase a difficult sentence. But it also brings up the concept of hallucinations, right? I've heard that these AI models can sometimes just make things up.
That's a critical point to understand. Because they're trained to predict the next plausible word, they can sometimes generate a response that sounds very confident and authoritative, but is completely factually incorrect. It's not lying in a human sense. It's just confidently generating a statistically probable response that isn't tethered to reality.
So it's a powerful tool for creativity, but you always have to be the one to fact check and verify the information. Absolutely. It's a co-pilot, not a replacement for our own critical thinking. And it's not just text. The visual side of generative AI is equally stunning.
I've seen images created by tools like Midjourney or DALL-E that are so artistic and detailed, you would never guess they were made by a computer. You just give a text prompt and it creates a visual masterpiece.
Yeah, this is another huge area. These are also based on large models, but they are trained on a massive data set of images and their corresponding text descriptions. So they learn the connection between the words "a golden retriever wearing a spacesuit" and the visual representation of that idea. This is completely revolutionizing fields like graphic design and marketing.
I've seen artists use it to quickly generate concepts for a project, saving them hours of work.
It's a fascinating collaboration between human creativity and machine power. And I think that's the key theme here. AI is not some external force coming to take over. It's a tool that we are building and learning to use to augment our own abilities.
Let's shift gears now and talk about some of the broader societal impacts. Because AI is not just a bunch of cool apps, it's fundamentally changing how industries operate. Think about healthcare, for example. We're seeing AI being used to analyze medical scans like X-rays and MRIs to help doctors detect diseases like cancer at a much earlier stage.
That's an incredible application. I read a story about an AI system that could identify signs of breast cancer in mammograms with a higher degree of accuracy than a human radiologist. And again, this isn't about replacing the doctor. It's about giving them a powerful tool to make better, faster decisions.
Exactly. It's about combining the AI's ability to process massive amounts of data with the doctor's experience, judgment, and empathy. The AI provides a powerful prediction, but the human provides the diagnosis and the patient care. It's the perfect partnership. And the same principle applies to transportation. We're getting more and more driver assistance features in our cars, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and this is all a step towards the massive challenge of fully autonomous vehicles.
And that's where the ethical questions really come to the forefront, don't they? We've talked about things like bias in algorithms. If an AI is trained on data that only reflects a certain demographic, it might perform.
I think it's this. AI is not a monolith. It's a vast collection of different tools and technologies, each with its own purpose. It's not the AI, but rather an AI or several AIs working behind the scenes. And these tools are only as good as the data they're trained on and the intentions of the people who build them. So, the most important thing we can do as a society is to stay informed, ask critical questions, and participate in the conversations about how we want to use these powerful tools.
I couldn't agree more. It's about being informed and not intimidated. We can't bury our heads in the sand. We have to be active participants in this journey. And I hope today's conversation has given our listeners a little more confidence and a new vocabulary to talk about AI, whether it's with their friends, their family, or in their workplace.
That's the goal. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. What AI tools do you use? What's your biggest hope or fear for the future of AI? Send us an email or a message on our social media. We'd love to hear from you.
That's a great idea. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Helen. This was a lot of fun.
And thank you all for tuning in to the Speak English journey. We'll be back next time with another topic to help you on your path to English fluency. Until then, take care.